Geopolitical tensions reach a breaking point as a massive coordinated military strike hits Iranian command centers, throwing the region into chaos. Iran responds with its most lethal economic weapon, the total closure of the Strait of Hormuz, sealing off all maritime traffic from the Persian Gulf. This single waterway is a global artery. Choking it off immediately traps 20 million barrels of oil and 20% of the world's liquid natural gas. Energy markets drop into immediate panic. The US and G7 nations scramble to stabilize the global economy, authorizing the urgent release of strategic oil reserves. Fears of an economic apocalypse take hold, with initial projections warning that oil prices could soar past $180 a barrel. But as the front door of Middle Eastern energy slams shut, the predicted blackout never arrives. Massive shipments of oil are still reaching the market, raising the question of how this crude is escaping the Gulf. Despite the total blockade of the Persian Gulf, a fleet of supertankers continues to deliver Saudi crude to global buyers. This flow should be impossible. Nearly all of Saudi Arabia's primary energy infrastructure sits directly inside the blocked zone. But these phantom shipments are loading elsewhere, on the Red Sea coast, on the opposite side of the Arabian Peninsula. The global economy is currently supported by a single Saudi failsafe that is quietly bypassing the world's most dangerous maritime siege. This is the Petro line. It is a 1,200-kilometer desert artery of steel connecting the eastern oil heartlands directly to the western coast. Saudi Arabia built this system in 1981, specifically to hedge against a maritime blockade during the Iran-Iraq War. The sheer scale is massive. It moves 7 million barrels of crude every day across the entire kingdom. The flow is precise. 5 million barrels load at Yanbu for global export, while 2 million supply domestic refineries. This geographic backdoor gives Saudi Arabia a strategic flexibility that neighboring states like the UAE simply do not have. By opening this backdoor, the Petro line has effectively neutralized Iran's greatest strategic leverage over the world's energy supply. However, the workaround has a physical limit. These coastal storage facilities at Yanbu are reaching capacity because they cannot process the kingdom's entire daily output. This physical bottleneck forces Saudi Arabia to lower its total production levels, as there is simply nowhere left for the excess oil to go. At the same time, Houthi militants have begun targeting rerouted tankers as they attempt to pass the narrow Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The crisis is fracturing regional alliances. The UAE has abandoned OPEC in protest, while Riyadh chooses a path of calculated de-escalation. Saudi Arabia is now engaged in a complex shadow diplomacy, coordinating air defenses with Israel while simultaneously welcoming 30,000 Iranian pilgrims to Mecca. Riyadh is proving that in a proxy war, cold pragmatism is the only strategy for survival. Defending this lifeline is staggering. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, a surge in defense spending drove a $33.5 billion fiscal deficit. Successful drone breaches have shattered a core assumption of the Saudi leadership, the idea that the kingdom could modernize in total peace. Economic triage has begun. Utopian megaprojects that relied on investor confidence are being scaled back as the budget is redirected towards security. The priorities of Vision 2030 have shifted. The kingdom is now engineering a sovereign, Hormuz-proof survival grid. Only the projects that avoid the contested Persian Gulf, like AI data centers and Red Sea logistics, are surviving the budget cuts. Despite its reliance on U.S. security, Riyadh maintains firm red lines, refusing to normalize ties with Israel without a roadmap for a Palestinian state. This diplomatic friction is driving Saudi Arabia to broaden its security partnerships worldwide, moving away from a total dependence on Washington.